Well, thank you for coming today. This is Crafting Canvas Engaging Design, and I am Chris Rice. I teach English at Hickory High School, so I'm coming to you from Hickory today, and I'm just glad that you've decided to attend. As I said before, you're going to have access to this slideshow, so you'll be able to do this that you see on the screen later if you have not done it. There are a good number of you who this is your first session for the day, so you likely have not downloaded that app. So just know that you're going to have time to do that later, okay? So today, also here is the link for your copy of this presentation. It's bit.ly/engagingdesign2. 2 just means it's the second session I've done today. Okay, so if ever you want that, and I'm going to keep repeating this kind of obnoxiously in the slideshow, you'll see it in the lower right-hand corner. So if you don't get it now, don't worry, it's going to be up there a lot. So you'll be able to grab get hold of this slideshow and see it, and click links and things like that. So today we're going to talk about engaging design, deliberate design. It is not a how-to. It is more of a philosophical sort of conversation. The ultimate goal of this particular session is to inspire you to think more about how you design in Canvas, and to keep the student's experience as paramount in your designing. Remembering the student experience is very important. And so I'm going to talk about how to be very deliberate when you're trying to create engaging designs. Okay. We have been through so much. Oh my gosh. Every teacher that I've ever spoken to since COVID and during COVID has a variation of the horror that I've lived through. So I think we're one tribe in that we really feel each other's pain. Like, for instance, thank you for sharing before class started, Laura, about your situation, about how you've been on Google Classroom. You were allowed to continue using it last year because COVID, right? They probably wanted to keep it as less stressful as possible for you, but now you're going to have to use Canvas. So, you know, now you're going to have to pick up something brand new, as well as kind of deal with whatever we're going to get thrown this year, as far as, you know, are we going to be in class all the time, part of the time, masks, no masks, who knows? But we're amazing in that we've survived it. I wanted to spend just a few minutes of time kind of reflecting on what we have gained from it. Now, there's a lot of, you know, bad stuff that we've had to live through, deaths and stress out the wazoo, students who weren't responsive, you know, the heartbreak of that, and the heartbreak of not being able to really make connections like we're used to with students. But out of that, what is some of the silver lining? What is some stuff that you have come to understand about teaching that you might not have learned had you not been teaching through a pandemic? Also, what is a technique or a method or an attitude that you can carry with you as you move forward? Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you in the chat a link, and I'd like you to follow it, and hopefully this one will work. It is a Padlet, but you should be able to get to this Padlet just by clicking on it. When you do, you come to this page, and it has those 2 questions. And the instructions are, double-click anywhere, and then type your name, your school, your position, and then answer either of those 2 questions. What have you learned about teaching? What have you come to understand about teaching that you might not ever have come to? You might not have ever had that understanding had it not been teaching through the pandemic. Or what is a technique or method or attitude that you can now carry forward as the dust is settling? Katie, I am from Pamlico County originally. Is West Carteret like in Craven County or Carteret County? I guess it's Carteret County. So not far from you, where I grew up. Spend about 5 minutes kind of reflecting. Okay, so we've got some folks who've just joined us. I'm sending out that Padlet link again in the chat in case you need it. Okay, it looks like we're slowing down here. Looks like folks are done. If you're not, by all means, continue thinking and typing, but some really good ideas here that I see. I like, I definitely feel that it was so challenging. I really agree with Mercedes, who says that, it was challenging. It's really teaching any student with disabilities or not, engaging them when they were not in the classroom. It just was so difficult. And Deborah, hey Deborah, I didn't know that you taught at Hickory. That's cool. I came in the fall of 2005. I've taught there. This is my 23rd year of teaching, and I taught from 93 to 98, and then was in the tech world for about 7 years, and then came back to Hickory High and taught starting the fall of 2005. So I bet you were in the spring there, and we just missed each other. But that's cool, a cool connection. Also, sorry, that was a little sidebar there. But also, I noticed that some of you are talking about how it was hard because the students would, have things that they had to do at home. I know that this is probably not uncommon. I bet a lot of you had students who, especially if you taught older students, like I teach seniors, I teach AP Lit and senior English at all levels. And I had students who, because they were the oldest kid and the parents would continue to work, they had to take care of their siblings. Some might have 3, 4, or 5 siblings in the house, and trying to keep them focused on their lessons and their Zooms. So it was very, very tough, a lot of pressure on our older kids. But I also had kids who worked, that were allowed to work during school time. One of my students would take his device with him to work. And so he was faithful. He logged in every day. But of course he got only about 35% of what was happening. And so he had to do a lot of makeup work. It was really hard for him. So and some people had to work financially because of COVID. Just really a tough time. It says, Katie said that through the pandemic, she learned that kids need to be taught in such a way that they learn. She thinks that they've been accustomed to us kind of spoon feeding everything, and they have lost the ability to know how to learn for themselves. So that's an interesting comment, I think. So anything that you would like to bring up that you made as a comment here before we move into the meat of today? Something that you're going to take with you, either an attitude, a technique, a method, or something that you learned about teaching. Okay, well then let's get started. I'm going to jump into our presentation. So something that I've learned that I'd like to share with you. I'll tell you about me a little bit. This is my 23rd year of teaching. And I found out that, we're always taught and told to definitely keep the student in mind with our assignments, our assessments, with our, practices, keep the student at the center, of the learning. And I thought that I was really, really good at that. I thought I had that down completely. My school had to use Canvas the year before last. So before COVID hit, we were using Canvas as much as possible that year, with the idea that the next year, the year that COVID hit, we would all be using it almost 100%. So you know how that goes. There are your early adopters who are eager beavers and jump right in, and they are not afraid to fail forward. They're not afraid to make mistakes, learn from them, and move on. And then there are those who dig their heels in and they don't want to do the new thing because either it's scary, and it is scary, I will definitely say that, or they just don't like to change, or they've been doing it so long They don't want to have to redo, what they've done before. Lots of reasons for not adopting quickly. Be that as it may, the year that COVID hit, we were supposed to be using it as much as possible. And when March hit, of course, all of a sudden, everybody had to start right away, even if they hadn't really gotten used to it yet. And so that was killer, because in our district, I've heard that I have a cat, and so she likes to get in the window. Hang on a second so I can get her settled so she won't make a lot of noise. Okay, sorry about that. So what I was saying is that in my district, we had to go synchronous. We could not be asynchronous except for one day a week, and that was Wednesday. Now, I heard a lot of other school systems around us didn't do that, didn't have synchronous. Some of them didn't have synchronous anything. They just had asynchronous work. And so we were teaching, kind of like what I'm doing here. I'm having experience with you guys. We were doing that every day for every class except Wednesdays. And so that was hard. And that was a hard demand for teachers who had not yet really gotten to know, Canvas specifically. We scrambled, of course, to teach people how to use Zoom well. I was part of a team that taught people, how to use Zoom as a way to connect. But boy, there was a lot of learning that took place because of COVID that year. And then, of course, last year, people were feeling a lot more comfortable. Some were still struggling just a bit, but in any case. So that's kind of where I'm coming from. And so I had been using Canvas. I was one of the team members who was part of teaching other teachers how to use Canvas. And so I had been using it a while, and I thought I was doing pretty well with it. But I realized, when we had to start teaching remotely, that I really had not learned how to design the experience that the student has. I mean, I was good at throwing things in a Canvas page, and I knew how to make links to things, for the student to get to. But I really was not thinking in terms of how do I design my course in such a way that it's very intuitive, very useful, very user-friendly, and encourages, independence, like what somebody had made a comment about earlier. So today, what I'm going to do is talk about some things that you can do, some ways of thinking, and this would be especially helpful for Kim, I think, who is not a Canvas lover. I wasn't either, Kim. I wasn't using Google. I was using Edmodo. I don't know if you guys know about Edmodo. Anybody ever heard of that? If you have, let me know. Give me a thumbs up or something, or you can speak if you'd like, or chat it in the chat box. I had to move from Edmodo to Canvas, and I really didn't want to. And it took me a while. And I'm usually an early adopter, but just the thought of having to create new material, new things with my materials, it just kind of was daunting. So I feel your pain, Kim. I can tell you this: the staunchest folks who don't like Canvas, eventually, when they get into it, they can do it. And Tamisha, I see you said it was rough. Yes, it is rough. It is at first. But one of the things that I didn't have that I want to give you today is some of the possibilities. I want to share with you what it can do, because I didn't know what it could do. And so therefore, I was struggling and just doing the bare minimum because that's all I knew how to do and how it could be. So today, I want to hopefully inspire you a little bit. Now, we know from research, Baldwin and Ching, for instance, what it takes to have an effective online class design. These ideas are not new. You guys have studied these in PD, I'm sure, all over the place. But what we'll focus on out of this list mostly is, intuitive navigation, links to services that the kids need, timely links, instructor information and contact information, and technology being used to engage and facilitate learning. So that's going to be our focus for today. Now, okay, so we're going to move forward. So today we're going to talk about deliberate design with the student in mind. And the three areas that we're going to talk about in the next roughly an hour is effectively designed home pages in Canvas, well-designed module organization, thoughtful page designs. Okay, these are the three areas that I'm going to speak to, and I'm going to show you lots of examples because I want you to be inspired by what you can do. Okay, so first, a very effectively designed homepage generally is going to have eye-catching graphics, but I would say that it needs to go further than just eye-catching graphics. It needs to be meaningful, interesting graphics, okay, that pull a student in, that make a student feel welcomed, that make a student feel accepted, comfortable, as much as possible. Important information should be prominently displayed on your homepage. If it's important, it needs to be near the top. It needs to be, viewable, easily seen. And third, there need to be minimal and logical links. And so I'm going to talk about all three of those really quickly. Here's an example homepage, and we'll talk about the elements in just a second. I see that Sarah says that Canvas was a challenge, and she's dreading setting it up for the coming year. Yeah, it's daunting. It really is, especially if you have multiple preps. You might want to ask your district or your principal if you can, semester by semester, focus on certain courses. Because if you try to do Canvas, I would think if you tried to do Canvas for the first time, let's say you had 3 preps. If you tried to do that for 3 completely different classes, it's going to be killer, really killer. But if your principal would say, hey, let me pick one of the 3 preps for this semester and use nothing but Canvas so I can get it kind of going and created. Then next semester, I'll pick up another one, and then I'll pick up another, slowly pick them up. Because once you've made a course in Canvas, of course it's yours, and you can use it again and again. That's one good thing about Canvas, is once you put in the blood, sweat, and tears, it's not wasted. You can completely use that same course, just dump it into your, every year into your new courses. So there's that. Okay, so let's look at the, thanks for sharing, Sarah. Good, I'm glad to hear that, Sarah, so you won't be dead. You can take one at a time and really focus on it. Okay, so let's look at the elements of this homepage. First of all, there's minimal navigation. Now, if you've looked at Canvas, you're going to be familiar with the fact that on the left-hand side, there's a long list of blue links. And your students, by default, get all those links, and they don't need them. It's overwhelming. They get lost in those links. You need to deliberately think through, what do they need access to? I didn't want them to have access to my quizzes and tests. So I didn't want them to have that link there, right? So I'm going to talk about that in a few minutes, about how to make minimal navigation, logical navigation. Also, timely and important stuff I throw right at the top. Usually this graphic is at the top, but if there's something they need to know right away, I hit it with them at the top, and I'm really obnoxious about it, as you can see. I highlight it and use color because when they go to my class, that's going to pop up in their face. So see here, for instance, I taught seniors and they hadn't gotten their dues in, and it keeps them from graduating. So here's a link that takes them to the service that they can use to actually pay online. So timely, important links, make them very visible near the top, and include links to services, things that they need to use. You know, don't just tell them to go to another web page and click on a link. Get the link, make it there for them so that it can be done. And of course, there was an exam exemption sort of last year, so here's the information about that. Next, of course, there's the eye-catching, interesting, welcoming graphics. And then there's the important links in line. Now, I don't know about your school, but I think almost everywhere, the Bitmoji Classroom blew up everywhere. Everybody was doing it. And so I'm going to talk about that. I'm not going to, it's not a how-to, although I am, during this presentation, going to give you lots of helpful links to resources to help you learn about things that I'm talking about. So if you've never done a Bitmoji Classroom and you want to do it, there are links later in this presentation that will carry you to places, and I'll show you, so that you can start learning and get excited about it. Okay, so this Bitmoji Classroom is really just, as you can see, a slide. It's a slide, Google slide. And I created it and then kind of painstakingly selected elements and had them move in slowly and at different times, just for interest. And I use this slide, I save this in its own presentation as just a single slide, and I use it in my Google website. At our school, we have a website, a school website, but each teacher has to have a Google website as well. And I use this, I reference this in the website. And so when you open that website, it's a Google slide. And so it runs. And so the little pieces come flying in and kind of like people are like, what? What's this? You know, it draws their attention to it. In Canvas, all I did, of course, was create it and then use that snipping tool to just grab a picture of it. And I use it as a JPEG, and I use it as a graphic that I use then on the home page of my Canvas pages. Now, what's the deal with this? Instead of using a generic looking Bitmoji Classroom, my recommendation is that you spend the time and the thought and design it personally. Have the classroom be more than just have helpful links. Now, in the actual on the actual web page, there are links at the bottom to different things like my Zoom link and my schedule and their syllabus and et cetera, et cetera. This is just for the picture. This is for the picture that appears in Canvas. So there are links to all that stuff on my homepage in Canvas. But I'm arguing that, you know, you spend the time necessary to really make your classroom do something more than just have good links in it. Instead, think of it as a way to share who you are or part of who you are with your students. I use this as kind of like an introductory assignment when I'm first getting the kids in the room, doing role, trying to get their names, you know, learn their names. I ask them to look at this and come up with, you know, 4 or 5 things that they think they know about me, based on what they see in my classroom. And as you'll notice, I'm including things like some of my favorite writers, some of my favorite books, the kinds of movies I enjoy. I love sushi, you know, so I had to put sushi in my classroom. I'm a musician. I play different instruments, and sax is one of them. But I also am including signals to students about my attitude toward them, my welcoming nature, you know, that it's a safe space for all my students. They also are seeing things like, you know, some of my interests, like games I like, computer games I enjoy, et cetera, et cetera. Plus, they're getting a Bitmoji. Who doesn't love a Bitmoji? That is very positive and excited. And so it kind of shares all that with them. And hopefully there's an element somewhere here that the student will connect to. You know, there might be a Carolina fan and they see this and they're like, oh, you know, he's a Tar Heel, you know, or something like that. So my advice for the homepage is use graphics that are enticing, but also that do more. Be very thoughtful, be very deliberate about what you do, especially if you do a classroom, because the classrooms are overdone by now. They really are. So you really need to make yours really you. Really share who you are. Get that connections started right away, that personal connection with your students. Okay, so that's the idea about the Bitmoji Classroom. If you're new to it, you're kind of slow to the train, that's okay. Here are a couple of excellent resources that are clickable. So, you know, if you get a copy of this, presentation, you'll be able to get to it. There are templates, and there's a really quick and helpful tutorial. This is a YouTube. There are so many, but this is a really good one. It's very friendly. It really does a good job of explaining things. The templates takes you to the, just a Google image page of classrooms, and some are blank and some are created. You can, you know, grab one that's halfway done already if that's what you want to do. It is as simple as typing wall and floor and searching for images, and you get so many different options that you can use as a background image on your Google slide as you're creating your classroom. So there's that. So just in case you're new to it, you've got some resources here. Now, so that's that graphic idea, but let's talk about the minimal navigation. How many of you out there right now are currently Canvas users? You're actually using Canvas in class now. Let me know, maybe through the chat, say yes or no, that would help, or you can give me a thumbs up. Okay, so it looks like Tamisha, is that you? Yeah, Tamisha is using it because she said it was rough at first. Let's see. Kim is, of course, not, because she told us that she's been trying not to use it because she loves that Google Classroom, been avoiding it. Katie's been avoiding it, uses Google Classroom. Okay, yes. Deborah's using it, Tamisha's using it. Okay, so we've got a good mix here. You will get to know this, this little menu over here. I'm going to go ahead and show you what that looks like in real Canvas. I'm going to pop over to Canvas. So see, in Canvas, no matter where you are in Canvas, this is a homepage of like a training thing I made. Here's an example of an engaging, interesting graphic. And so that wasn't very personal or fun. I mean, it's fun because that book is floating, right? Magic. But I then decided to use buttons that were emojis. So when you click this, you go to the syllabus or the course description or about me. And this is like a Padlet page I made that has, you know, my story, some bits and pieces of who I am, that they can immediately jump in and get to know me, know some things about me. But on the left-hand side, you get this menu. And guys, you don't want your students to go to all these places, because it's confusing. You know, like for instance, some teachers don't want their students to go to assignments, because if they go to assignments, they see all the assignments ever that the course has ever had and will have, and they don't want them to have access to those yet. So they take that off. But how do you do that? You do it by going to Settings. It's at the bottom of the list, and there are tabs here, and you go to Navigation, and you'll notice that up here are the things that the students will see. These are things the students will not see. A teacher, you're going to see it all. Okay? So if you're logged in as a teacher, you're going to see the whole list. But you can control what do they get to see, what do they not, just simply by dragging and dropping the items. So that's important. You want to be thoughtful about what you actually have available and what you don't. You don't want to overwhelm kids with lots of choices. Keep it simple, keep it logical. But let's see, Mercedes says, but very limited because her OCS students are using NCVPS Canvas. When you say very limited, what does that mean? Mercedes. Oh, I see. Yeah, you want to keep their choices very limited. Am I understanding you? I have two devices, one over here that's got just the chat up so that I can make sure to know when people are chatting. Yes, okay, good. I understood you then. Okay, now, so how do you do that little trick where, I don't know if you noticed, but in my example, there are some that don't exist. There's no day-by-day plan in the list, and there's no Zoom link in the list. I created those because they needed them on the homepage. They needed their access to the day-to-day plan from the homepage. I didn't want to have to dig for anything, and they needed that Zoom link because they were constantly, where do you find the Zoom link? I put the Zoom link on every page, and they still would not know where to go. So I thought, well, this isn't going to hurt. I'm going to create a Zoom link up here in this list as well. How do you do that? Well, it's like this. You go down into settings, like I was talking about before. It opens that dialog box that has tabs at the top. The tab you're looking for is apps. Once you click apps, you're going to search for something called redirect. And it looks like this. When you click it, you have to install it, and when you install it, it looks like, look on the right, this is what pops up. This is where you name your new link and you put the URL for that link. Okay, and then you say add app, and then it appears on your left-hand side links. Every time you want to add a new one of those, a homegrown one, you're going to have to go through the process of going to apps, looking for redirect, clicking it. It'll say installed if you've already installed it, but you just click add app anyway, and then you get this little dialog box on the right. And so you'll do yet another one. So that's a really helpful way to fine tune and be very deliberate, right, about your design of your homepage, and make the available options minimal and very logical for the student. And then when they click the day-by-day plan, the one that I made, it links them to a Google Doc that is the day-by-day plan for that course. I am really weird. I plan out an entire semester day by day so that they can see, oh, I've got a quiz coming up Friday, but I've got a football game Thursday, so I better do the work Tuesday night to get ready for that quiz. It just helps them make plans. In the normal world, that's how that worked. In COVID world, it even helped more. I found, like another person wrote on Padlet, that giving them ahead of time notice is one of the most helpful things we can do for our students. For those high flyers, they love it because they know what's coming and they can prepare. For our kids who struggle with organization, it's a great tool to start hammering away at them with love to build that prefrontal cortex, to build that thinking of the future. So this really works well for me, and it's embedded in, like, when you click it on the homepage, it opens it right there in front of you, so you can scroll around in the day-by-day plan. Okay, so that's those are the elements that I think are really important for your homepage. Eye-catching graphics, but maybe more than that, welcoming graphics that really help them feel, welcomed, included, seen, and helps to excite them. Important information displayed prominently and providing minimal and logical links. Yes, Sarah, I agree. It does ease their stress and mine, because I know what's coming. And I know that I'm going to cover what I need to cover. Now, doesn't mean that I don't make changes. That's why it's in a Google Doc, so that I can easily go and edit when things go wrong. If there's a hurricane and we miss a day of school, I can go in and change things. So, okay, so I'm excited to talk about now the module organization. This is the part I'm most excited to share with you. And I'm hoping that this will, again, inspire you by showing you what's possible and what we can do in Canvas. Kim, don't let it overwhelm you. I think in some ways you're in a good position, as are other people who've not done Canvas yet, in that you can go in after looking at this knowing what you can do, and so you'll do it. You'll actually do it, and it will be great, and you won't struggle as much. Because I'll tell you, when I first started, I didn't know much, and I was trying to put graphics in pages, And I was trying to be, creative and make it look nice. And it's very difficult to do that in Canvas. It's not pretty natively. You really, graphics will just go where they want to, and they mess up your alignment, and there's not much you can do about it. But, there are some things to do, and I'm going to show you that really help you control how the page looks, and it's freeing. So maybe this will be good for you, Kim and others. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you 3 different module organization techniques. Okay. One is mine. One is my wife's, Heidi Rice. She's a French teacher here at Hickory High. And one is Cyrus Henson. He's a math teacher at Hickory High. I'm so excited about showing these to you because they're different but they're fun, and they all are well designed. They're all with the mindset of, I'm helping my student. I'm helping my student be able to navigate this course, know what the heck is going on, know when and where to go where. So let's start with this quick kind of explanation. Here's what's typical. The typical person will create modules, and they are sort of like filing cabinets. Okay, they might be organized by units. Like, here's my Unit 2 Middle English Medieval Period unit, and so that's my module, and inside are all the things that go with that experience, that go with my Unit 2 for my kids. So it's like a filing cabinet, electronic filing cabinet. It's made up of pages I've created that have information for my kids. It's made up of quizzes, assignments, tests, things like that. All those kinds of things are just in that filing cabinet module. It could be by topic, like vocabulary module, or it could be by a book that you teach. And so everything about Macbeth is going to be in the Macbeth filing cabinet module. Okay, that's what modules look like for all you newbies. A module is simply something that has a title and then has material in it. Okay, and this is real typical at first for people to make their modules kind of like filing cabinets of stuff. Okay, because it's very helpful for us teachers. It helps us collect everything. We know we've got what we need in those modules. All right, but what I'm going to suggest is that it's not really the most helpful for students. Okay, because I spent a lot of time early on in using Canvas in class having to say, okay, so everybody scroll down, go to modules, scroll down and go find the Unit 2 module. Okay, now once you're in the Unit 2 module, look for the file that says Studying Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, and click on that. And your kids are like, what, where, huh? It was just kind of like really putting them through unnecessary confusion by keeping it this way. So here's what I do, and I'm going to recommend you really think about maybe doing this, and that is using a hybrid. Organize your modules by weeks and days, okay? And keep those at the top of your list of modules. Modules are a long-running list of things on a page in Canvas, okay? So I would recommend have a week like October 5th through 9th as the name of a module. Have it at the top of the list. You can move modules around. And then have a page for every day, okay? And on each of those pages will be all the links to stuff that exists in my filing cabinet modules, which exist at the very bottom of the list. Students never scroll all the way down to see all that. You don't have to worry. But again, with Canvas, you can turn on and off modules so that they can see it or not see it. And within the module, you can turn each item on or off. So they're only going to see what you let them see anyway. Okay, so I recommend doing kind of sort of a hybrid. Have it week by week, day by day, and have the daily pages contain the links for what they have to get done that day. Your lesson, your lecture, your, your materials for that day. And so, you know, this works really, really well because I don't have to spend time explaining where things are. When a student is absent and says, Mr. Rice, I was out last Tuesday, what did I miss? And I can say, well, go to Canvas, find Tuesday, the 29th of September, click on it, and there you have it. Everything you need is there. All the links you need is there. All the information you need is there. The assignments are there that you can turn in your assignments on, all of that. So it really, really starts to encourage the student to be more with it, to understand that he or she can help, they can help themselves. This designed module kind of organization is built with the student in mind. So if they were sick for a day, they don't have to ask me. And if they do ask me, the answer they're going to get is, we'll go to that day in Canvas, because I will have taught them this is how it's laid out for you. Okay, so there's an example of a module organization that has worked really well for me. Another caveat is something my wife does, is that she does the same, but she has a module at the top called Notes and Resources, and it's fluid. Things disappear and appear in and out of that module as she needs them to be there for her kids. So that's always the first module on the page of modules, and then the date for the week that we're in. And then the dates get pushed down, 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 down. So you're seeing this week here. And if you want last week, it's right here. And if you want the week before that, it's right here. Now, this is also helpful for parents, you know, because they can clearly see what the student had to do on that day. And they can email you with questions or contact you, okay? Okay, so before I get into page design that works well with this, I want to ask for you guys to give some feedback. What do you think? Do you have questions about any of this? First of all, newbies to Canvas, are there things about this that you're a little fuzzy on and would like some more explanation? Is this logically making sense? Okay, Laura, you're clear on modules. Good. Great. Okay, yes, so Sarah, when they click on the date, what they're going to see is what I'm going to go over next, the page. So we've gone from home page down to modules, and now we're about to get into the pages themselves and how do they work in this kind of theory, in this kind of way of doing things. So thanks for that question. I'm going to answer it soon. Okay, so let's go to page design and talk about it. So here is a typical page for me, okay? This one is an A day, B day class, so you get 2 dates at the top, because for A day it's Wednesday and for B day it was Thursday. But this is a typical page. We were studying Old English literature, and we're reading the poem The Wanderer, which is about this dude who is exiled from the kingdom, and the kingdom is destroyed. We don't know exactly why. They were attacked maybe. So he has no king, and back in those days, having a king meant stability. He has no kinfolk around. They're gone. He's out on a boat by himself in the icy water, all alone. And it's really, really emo, as much of the literature was in Old English times. It's very, very ubi-sant. It's very looking back and saying, oh, where are all the good times, right? And so he's lamenting, basically, in this poem. And, you know, I was like, okay, so I need to catch their attention, or at least make this pleasant experience. Icy waters. So I found some graphics that were free to share, to use, that would get kids kind of in that mindset. Icy cold water, terrible weather, you know, ice flows, rough seas at night, cold. And when I found those, I was like, okay, it's easy to choose colors that kind of match that and make this kind of a harmonious looking page. Okay, so first, what I want to call your attention to then is it's made from single row multi-column tables. What you're looking at is a Canvas page that has tables on it. Okay, it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows. Okay, and each of the rows has two different columns. Now I made them separately so that I could have the columns be at different places. And if you put a table right underneath another table, they go right together. It looks like they're part of the same thing. Okay, so it is single row, multi-column tables, and it helps me to control the graphics and the text. If I had just put a graphic with this text, the graphic would have either been before it all or underneath it all or in the middle of it. It would have been crap. It would have looked terrible. This at least looks a little more designed, a little more high-end. And what you're finding here is that they've got links for everything they're going to need for this day's class. Let's walk through it. Step 1. Oh, and I was going to say the tables add flow, visual flow to that day's activities. Obviously, there are parts of what we're doing. We have to do certain things. Okay, this is very clear to view. Using color also helps. Not only does it create a pleasing experience, but it also kind of makes it more readable, makes it more, you know, if this were nothing but black and white, no graphics, and just text, 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 and text, think about the reaction to that. Psychologically, this helps you in your cause. This makes this much more approachable to a student and doable because it's bite-sized looking pieces. It doesn't look like a humongous amount of any one thing. But let's take a look. Today, your notes are on the critical lenses are due. This was an assignment that was due today. Please submit here. This is a picture I took of a presentation I had shown in the class. This is a picture of the first slide, and this kind of jogs their memory. Oh yes, I know what you're talking about. And no, I don't have to go now in Canvas and find that assignment. I don't have to leave this page, go to assignments, dig through them and find the assignment for the notes on critical lenses. It's right here. There's a link. All I gotta do is click it and I can turn that work in. Step 2, we're going to learn about the characteristics of Old English literature. So it was a small mini lesson, and this was I took a snap of my own PowerPoint, my own slideshow, put it here, and later I came back. Okay, so this is just talking about the graphics. I'll go ahead and talk about that quickly. I get ahead of myself. Find royalty-free and homemade images. They really help. You know, it's not that hard to stick one in or two, and it does help with their memory of what's going on and with just the pleasantness of the way it looks. And you can go back later and add links to videos. So I actually videoed the class where I gave the lecture on Old English Lit, the characteristics of it. And later, I just went in and stuck this here. So if you were absent, and I said, hey, go back to that day and see what you need to do, they can click that and they're going to experience the lecture so they can take their notes. And then 3, if time permits, if time permits, we're going to read The Wanderer. Click here so you can get the collection of all the things we're going to look at in the poetry in this unit. Click here and save it this way. And then step 4, we're going to do something called a think tank. That asks some deeper questions about that poem. Click here for the assignment. They actually did that in groups, and it's due the next day, the next time they come to class. So it's homework if they don't finish it. So everything we did that day is on that day's page. And so if a kid misses this day and I say, go back to Wednesday the 23rd, the kid can go there and sees exactly what needs to get done, and they can catch up and they can know what's going on. Questions about that? Okay, I'm going to show you lots more examples of pages though. Okay, so here is some resources. If you've never added rows or columns to a Canvas page, I found two great videos. The first one is about adding rows and columns and merging cells together. And the other is just another great demonstration of creating a table inside of a Canvas page. So if you're new to it, definitely use these resources. They're going to really help you. Also, here's a great resource for free graphics, photo resources, and buttons. If you click here, I made a page that has a couple of links for pics, free pics that you can use that you don't have to worry about, you know, copyright. And then these two are about making buttons and badges and things that you might want to do to zhuzh up your pages a little bit. So that's all there. So when you grab a copy of this presentation, you'll have the links that you can go back and kind of peruse. Okay. All right. So here's another example of one of my pages. Let's see. Our pages embedded in the daily module links. So yes, Kimberly, have I answered that already, or do you need me to answer that, Kim? You good? Okay. Well, just in case, take a look at what it looks like. Say this is a real course. And so when the kid hits modules, here's, let's say it's June 1st through 5th. Here's the days we had school. Okay. And so they would click on the day. Like I'll come down to maybe a more interesting one. Let's say Thursday the 21st. They click the page for that day, and there's the page. Now this is an old one, and it's not very nicely designed, but it does have all of the links they need. There's the study questions they have to work on. Okay. Here is the intro to William Wordsworth that they're going to have to look at today. So on my pages are the links to all the things they need to have that day. Let's see if this other page is okay. No, that one's not so hot either. Yeah, this is an old one. I want to go into a better one. So it's like here's an example of a page that we studied William Wordsworth and his poem, I Wandered Lonely as a Cloud. And this image goes along with that poem because it's about a guy who sees this lake with thousands of daffodil on this beautiful day. So this helps the student, subconsciously maybe have an image to hold on to when they get to this poem that they're going to read. So we first had a practice for NCFE because our school district made us do NCFEs last year, even though the state does not. They used ones, and we had to use that for their exam. So you click here for the item, and then you click here for the answer form. So they did their NCFE practice first that day. And then I made a banner here that said, now next we're going to do this. And this is actually I learned how to embed the Google Slides into the Canvas page, which is wonderful. So they can even just have it right there and look at the information that they need to know about William Wordsworth. Okay. And then it says we're going to read this poem. Click here for all the poetry that we're going to study in the Romantic unit. So they click it and save a copy for themselves. And then here are the discussion questions that they're going to be dealing with about this poem today. We worked with those together, actually, as a large class, but they needed those questions, and they could answer those questions. This links to a Google Doc that they then can type their answers in. So I hope that kind of answers any questions y'all have about how does it exactly work. Okay, so the thing about this particular page is that first, okay, so we were studying Beowulf and we were going to start writing a Beowulf essay. And so how many of you have heard of Modern Teacher? Has anybody heard of that program, Modern Teacher? Just give me a yes or a no, please. Any folks have Modern Teacher out there? Okay, Deborah, you have. Does your school use it? Or you just have heard of it? Okay, yeah, so her school is using it. And Laura says it's big in Gaston County. Laura, how big is it? Talk to us just quickly.
I'm not in that district. It's the district next door, and I have
So you're just hearing stuff.
colleagues who have gone through that training and are not fans.
Yeah, it's a lot. But what I was going to say is that in modern teacher, there's the idea of playlists, that you make kind of like a running playlist for the class, step by step, what they have to do for the unit that you're teaching or the day that you're teaching. And this is sort of in that kind of style. This is sort of a playlist page for Monday, in that we're going to do these 5 things. There's not a lot of choice here for students. This is just, first we're doing this, then you're going to do this, then we're going to do this, then you're going to do this. But I used color in the font to kind of help separate all that text and make this look like it's not that much. I don't want them to hit a page and go, oh my God, I don't want to do all of that, when really it's not that much. It just looks like it. So using color like that really helps to break up the information. And what I really wanted to explain is that, of course, here's the embedded slideshow about the Beowulf essay. And so the first thing we discussed were elements of the epic. And so when they click this link, this is actually opening an item in my Unit 1 Old English Literature module, Elements of an Epic. See, I'm making a link within Canvas to another Canvas page, essentially. They don't have to go to Unit 1 and dig through all this stuff to find the one thing I need them to open for that quick review. It's right there on today's page. Christian and pagan ideas in the literature, they've got the link. They don't have to go find it, because it takes up precious moments. We did a review for what makes a great essay, and so we did a quick review of that, and the link is there. Also, there are links for things that don't reside in Canvas, things that might be out in your Google. You're not trashing, Kim, you're not trashing your Google stuff. You're going to use your Google stuff, because Google works well inside of Canvas. So don't throw those things away. You'll be using them. I use Google all the time. I don't use the classroom aspect, but I use Google stuff constantly. And this was a Google page that first period would click, and they brainstormed ideas for what could we write an essay about? What's an interesting aspect about Beowulf that we could trace through the piece and have an argument for? Like, how does how does water work in Beowulf symbolically? When do we see water, and what does it likely mean? How does it have maybe different meanings or whatever? So the kids would go in and brainstorm, and they all see everybody working on this at the same time. So it's kind of encouraging. They come up with lots of cool ideas. And then the step 4 was they had to commit. And so they click a different link where they find a list of names, their names on it, and beside their name, they write their thesis, the thing they're going to argue. Then they work on their bubble planner. And here's a picture of what the bubble planner looks like, so the kid knows, okay, this is what I'm going to grab. And this link gives them a copy of that bubble planner that they save for themselves and they start working on. So everything is served up on the page that the student needs that day in a format that is, I'd say, pretty easy to follow. Okay. All right, before I go to Heidi, I want to show a couple more pages. Here's a page that when we studied A Modest Proposal by Swift, I included some graphics that were very interesting, because the kids were like, why is a baby on a platter? Why is this baby a sandwich? It kind of piqued their interest. I did that purposefully because, to be honest, even for high-level seniors, sometimes Swift is difficult to read. And once they get to what he's actually proposing, they love it. Once that happens, they're really into it. But to get into it at first, they need a little something to get them there. And this design is very friendly. It's very positive. I'm using 3 columns here, color in the background of each, 3 steps, and all the links they need. They were finishing up an assignment at the beginning of class from the last class, and here's that assignment. They don't have to go look up the assignment and find it in Canvas. It's right here for you. Click it, you're there. Then here's the required background that you need to read today for Swift. And then here's the piece that we're reading, and here's the assignment that goes with it. So everything they need, boom, 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 right there. They'll pull it up on their devices and be able to work. I see some, okay, one of our, let's see. Is there an instruction manual for step-by-step in Canvas, or did you just figure it as you went? So I had to figure it out as I went. Yeah, and that was really painful. However, there are lots and lots and lots of videos out there made by teachers to help other teachers about Canvas. So you're not alone. If you Google it, you're going to find good stuff. The links that I've provided so far are very helpful, but there's a lot more. One of our AP found a step-by-step guide for beginners. I think you just Googled it. Okay, awesome. Excellent. Yes, there's a learning curve, but please have strength. Know that there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Guys, once I've made all this stuff, it's made. And if necessary, I can tweak it to fit, say they finish the assignment and they don't need this right here, I can easily edit this page, but it's done. All the links are there. Everything's there. I just have to teach the class and support the students. It's nice. It's really nice once you put in the work. Okay, and then here's another example. We were doing King Arthur. So they had something due, so I put it at the top. Click here and turn it in, please. Now we're going to learn about verbs and verbals. And there's a video in case you missed it, so you can watch that and get notes on that. And then we started reading a particular selection. There's the story. Here's the notes. See how color is helping to, make it very, very understandable. Telling them where to put it. Okay, so those are examples of pages. Now, let me go back to show you a good example from Heidi. Now, Heidi also does her homepage kind of like I do. She uses a Bitmoji Classroom graphic. And you know that she does it similar, but look at how she's different. She does it week by week, but there's only one page for the whole week. And this is how at first she was doing it. This is a snapshot of the whole week, and I blew up a part of it so you can actually read what's on it. On the left-hand side, she made that column for announcements, for holidays, for any birthdays in the class, for funny things that are French, French culture-wise or French language-wise, inspiration and benefits from learning French. She liked to give kids, bits and pieces of stats that show them that learning French is a really good thing to do because, and where in the world is French spoken, business is done in French, et cetera, et cetera. On the right-hand side, she would give day by day what they were going to be doing. The daily assignments, the activities, here they are, and there are the links for what they need to do, that day by day by day. But she found that this ultimately was a bit too much. She was spending much more time on the left-hand column because she's very creative and enjoys it. And so it was eating up a lot of her time, and it really wasn't that useful. Kids weren't really paying much attention to that. So she revised, and this is what she uses now. At the top, she always has a link to notes, daily notes and objectives, and the syllabus. This row here is going to have graphics in it. She wants to find intriguing, beautiful, interesting things to look at that have to do with that week's theme. This week's theme was about Vietnamese Tet, which is like, Chinese Tet, which is like a New Year's celebration. So that's there. And then she has the day and date, what they're going to do in Zoom together that day, and then what they're going to do after the Zoom session is over, what they're going to do to finish up the period on their own with the links that they need. So that's how she built her pages to have the things that the students needed for her class. Okay, I do see, okay, so yeah, okay, great. That's reassuring. Okay, so now, here is Cyrus. Now, Cyrus teaches math. He does not go in for the graphics. He does not go in for all the color. But he does go in for very useful pages and modules. So check this out. This is on Cyrus's home page. At the top of the home page, welcome to Math 1, the schedule, and then links to the Zoom, links to the video library of how to do all the things that you do in Math 1. Office hour links, and he uses something called Desmos, and I've not used that, so I can't talk about it. But you'll notice he made buttons, graphical buttons, okay? If you need to have some information about buttons, there are links here and here. So watch those videos, super duper helpful. One's a kindergarten teacher, and she uses really cool, like cartoony graphics that are free and makes those the buttons and puts, you know, inside the graphic the thing that it takes you to when you click it. But anyway, watch those if you need button help. Then at the bottom of his page, this is the top of his home page. Okay, when the kid opens Canvas and clicks on Math 1, this is what they get right away. And this is the bottom of that page. Every unit that he has in that course is a button. So the kid chooses the unit he's on, okay? And when you click that unit, this is what you get. A simple page that uses a table that has every lesson, the 5 lessons for that unit, all the notes for those lessons, videos of him teaching everything about those lessons, and assignments that the kids do probably for a grade. Okay, really, really cool. Simple, to the point, you know, and that might be your style, you know, or you might go in for the more colorful, you know, like I do, or for like my wife does. It's just up to you and the way you want to do things. But this is no less great, I think. This is terrific because the kid doesn't have to dig anywhere. The kid goes to the home page, and straight from the home page, the kid goes to where he needs to go to start work. And when he clicks on that unit, he has everything in that whole entire unit. So if Cyrus has high flyers, they're going to move through on their own pace. And when they can prove that they're ready, they can try the practice, and he can say, you're not quite getting, you know, adding and subtracting polynomials. Go back, look at these notes, watch these 2 videos again, and let's try again, right? So he can kind of differentiate given this kind of framework. This is sort of a learning plan. This is what a modern teacher person would call a learning plan, sort of. It's lacking a few things, but this is kind of more there. Okay, all right. So, you know, if you're using well-designed modules in conjunction with well thought about pages, you really are helping the student in the long run become more self-sufficient, and you are providing them everything they need on one page. You don't have to spend half the class helping, you know, Jim find the thing that he needs to open to be able to do the assignment. Also, if the student's absent, the student can easily, after you train them at the beginning of the course, they can go and find the day they're out, and they know what they need to do, and they can do it and turn it in. So there is, you know, there are a lot of good positives for designing this way. At the heart of it, of course, is just helping the student and also making them independent. This is so useful for, you know, remote learning. So useful. But I guarantee this is going to be useful to me in face-to-face learning as well, because it's there for me to have them pull up, and I can be available to teach them, and they know where to find things so easily. Okay, so we're almost at the end of our time together. Sorry that I've gone this long. There are a couple of things that I need you to do. I hope you guys have enjoyed it and have at least gotten a couple of ideas been inspired at least a little bit about what's possible in Canvas and how it can look for your students and how you can organize things, you are going to get the ability now to scan this QR code and get credit for this class. If you're having any difficulty at all, you can use this link instead, but try to do the QR code. I think you'll get credit faster if you use the QR code. Point your camera of your phone or your device to it. It should recognize it as a link, and it should let you go to that link, and you do what it tells you there, and you're going to get a certificate for this course, for this class. Also, please, please, please take a few minutes to fill out the very short feedback survey. To get there, it's bit.ly/NCBOLD feedback 21. That is your link. Remember, you have access to this PowerPoint slideshow, Google Slow, so you can always get there and fill that out, later. But please don't forget, they really, really want each participant to give feedback about each session that he or she attends. Okay, so again, here's your code. I'm going to keep that up. And we've got a couple of minutes. Does anybody have any questions at this point while you guys are doing the survey and also doing the code so you can get your credit? The Bitly slideshow, yes, I can. Yes, I'll put all of those in there. Let me see if I can do that. Yeah. I'm going to grab this. This is going to be the survey coming up. Here is the survey. Okay. I did not put hold on, let me do it again. And put a space after it, and that'll make it, sorry, HTTPS. I think that's going to do it. Yeah, that's clickable now. So you should be able to get that. And for this code, you're just going to have to scan it. And then I think you guys wanted a copy of the link to this presentation. So here's the presentation. Yeah, there's the presentation link. And since I now have moved the cover off of the code here, you'll have access to that. You'll be able to see that and use it. Thank you so much for spending an hour or so with me. It was nice being with you, and I loved getting to hear a little bit about your stories and things that you're experiencing. And I wish you the best of luck this coming year. You're amazing. Teachers are truly heroes, in my opinion. And I wish you the best, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your summer. I'm going to have to end the presentation now because I have to start a new one for the next session.
This has been great. Thank you so much, Chris.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks for coming. Okay, so go ahead and grab those links if you need them. And take care. Bye-bye, everybody.